briefly say a little bit about some of the things we've been doing to mark the recent 50th anniversary of Ninewells Hospital in Dundee. And just by way of introduction, for those that are not familiar with the Tayside Medical History Museum, we are a fairly significant collection of medical equipment and, well, it covers a wide range of nursing memorabilia, instruments, different medicines through the ages. We do have a pathology collection as well. Well, I will not be showing any images of that. And unfortunately, there isn't one single central museum at the hospital. We have a variety of different displays in different parts of the hospital. So the picture you saw before, that's the sort of main permanent display in the medical school, but there are various other bits and pieces scattered around the hospital. But also we have various displays elsewhere. So for example, down at Dundee Science Centre, we have a display that we put together on the history of surgery. In the McManus, the main city museum, we have a little sort of permanent medical display there. We do a lot with medical students as part of the curriculum. We offer a number of SSC, student selected component modules on medical history topics. And in fact, we're about to start another one of those on Monday. But to get back to Ninewells Hospital, so just to give you a little bit of a historical background, although the hospital opened, well, now 51 years ago, in 1974. It had been a very long time in the planning. So actually during the Second World War, as part of nationwide thinking about hospital provision in Scotland, there was a decision made that the existing hospitals at Dundee Royal Infirmary and Maryfield were not going to be capable to cope with the shift towards the National Health Service and the subsequent expansion that would be required. So a new site would be needed out on the edge of Ninewells, where on the edge of Dundee, where they would be able to expand significantly. Now, at that time, there hadn't been a new UK teaching hospital built since the 19th century. So basically, they were kind of coming up with everything from first principles. And the whole idea was to go back to basics and rethink what a hospital should be. So in 1961, there was a big international symposium held in Dundee looking at hospital and medical school design with speakers from across Europe and the US. There was a whole series of full-scale mock-ups done where they would build entire rooms. So here's Sir Donald Douglas, the Professor of Surgery, performing a fake operation in a fake operating theatre to test out different design ideas. And whereas traditional hospitals tended to be more sort of building upwards, the idea of Ninewells was that it was a group of low-lying buildings over a very wide area, had all previously been farmland, and it was specifically built on a hillside so that you could have different entry points for facilities, for patients, for A&E and so on. And everything was built with the idea that the medical school would be embedded within the hospital. So all of the different wards and operating theatres and various other things were built specifically with the need for students to be able to see and interact with patients. So there's a whole lot of different things. I'm not going to go into any detail, but ward units were redesigned from scratch, getting away from the traditional Nightingale wards. The same with the operating theatres as well. And everything took absolutely ages, as these things always do. Eventually, having started building in 65, it eventually opened in 74. And on a visit by the European Hospital Federation, it was hailed as the jewel in the Scottish hospital crown. At that time, it was the largest hospital complex in the UK and one of the largest in Europe. And of course, since then, there have been a whole lot of different areas that the hospital has been particularly famous for. One of those, of course, is our work in laparoscopic or minimal access surgery, led by Professor Sir Alfred Cuschieri. But also various things that are perhaps less well known about. So, for example, curriculum design is a really important one. The Centre for Medical Education at Ninewells has become internationally renowned and has led a number of innovations in medical teaching, of which the best well-known one is the OSCE, Objective Structured Clinical Examination for examining medical students, which is now used in, I think, every medical school in the UK and in schools in, I think, 40 different countries worldwide. Because we now have Duncan of Jordanson College of Art and Design as part of the university, there's now increasing collaboration between the hospital, the medical school, and the art college on bringing design into healthcare, and a lot of really interesting projects coming out of that. So We had done a big exhibition to mark the 40th anniversary of Ninewells, and we didn't really want to just do all that again. So we started off with a number of small-scale things. We worked with a group of medical students to get them to curate their own little mini exhibition looking at the history of the hospital as part of one of those medical SSC courses. And they also produced a fantastic online exhibition as well, which I should have put a QR code to, but if you go to the online resources part of our website, you will find it. There was then a wider anniversary event to mark the actual anniversary of the official opening in October, where we relocated that display and we were part of various other celebrations that were going on there for the staff of the hospital. But throughout all that period, we were also speaking to V&A Dundee about putting on a larger exhibition, which will be opening tomorrow. So we were kind of very much integrally involved in developing that exhibition with them, in suggesting the various stories and objects that they might like to look at. So we're obviously the principal lender to that exhibition. And again, because, as I've suggested, design and sort of pioneering design has always been part of the hospital's story, it was very much something they were really keen to look at. So we're, of course, lending things like some of the key prototype instruments that were designed by Professor Curator and his colleagues, and which have then gone into production. But also other things that have come from Ninewells. So those of you in Scotland of 50 or over will no doubt be used to receiving these through the post. The bowel cancer screening programme that is Scotland-wide was introduced at Ninewells by Professor Bob Steele, who was Cushieri's successor as Professor of Surgery, and has had a dramatic effect on reducing the number of deaths from bowel cancer in Scotland. But one of the things that the V&A were really keen on was trying to sort of have a more people-centred approach to the exhibition and trying to tell stories about how the hospital is connected to the community. So one of those, for example, was through the Ninewells Cancer Campaign, which has been a really big thing. Dundee, of course, is one of the world leaders in cancer research, and that's entirely thanks to the huge amounts of money that have been locally fundraised by that cancer campaign. And I think it's now well over £30 million has been raised from local people. And of course, Dundee, Dennis the Menace, of course, is the key icon of that campaign. But V&A were also very keen to place Ninewells within the longer history of medical innovation in the city. So again, we were able to help them with various stories that they could tell as part of that. So key figures like Margaret Fairley, for example, who was the first female professor at a Scottish university, who was one of the key figures behind the use of radium for gynecological treatments. People like James Riley, the radiotherapist, whose work on the mast cell paved the way for antihistamine treatments for allergies. Ian Smiley, Professor of Orthopaedics, who was a world-renowned expert on knee surgery and developed his own set of surgical knives. So I did ask the V&A to send me some exciting photos of exhibition installation. The exhibition is going to be really exciting. We'll open tomorrow and we'll be on until September, and hopefully you can come and see it. And that's all for me, so thank you very much.